Yeah.
Me and Sister Georgina, we didn't know whether to actually have the courage to come here and talk about it or not, because we were thinking backlash, backlash, backlash. And backlash happened even before we are here. So we're going to start with backlash, right? And then we're going to go into a reality of what it is for revert white Muslims in a born Muslim community. Shall we do that, Sister Georgina?
Yeah, sounds good. Apprehensive, but sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. So I'm thinking, shall we maybe introduce the idea of what is racism? Let's start with basics, right? What is racism? What is that definition of racism?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to me first. Oh, great.
Okay.
I mean, when I like to speak from personal perspective straight off. I just want to connect with people straight away with who I am, rather than pretending or trying my hardest to get myself in another book and give you all these academic terms and what have you. I'll come straight from the heart. When I think of racism, just as me, who I am, I immediately think of marginalized people, Black people, brown people, non-white people.
Yeah.
And when, you said, do you want to do this? I have my ideas of racism and my perspectives on it. And your perspectives was slightly different. And I hadn't been in that perspective for a while, and we'll talk about that. And it's given me a lot of food for thought. So I've been having a good think about this, because obviously my research it's ended up being on converts. Never intended to, but it's ended up being on converts. And of course, racism is definitely mentioned in it. So, it's about minorities, isn't it? It's minorities of a majority, whoever the majority happens to be. I mean, I suppose that's how I see racism, of individuals, of groups, people marginalized for their skin color. And I think that actually is how we define racism sometimes, by skin color. But as I'm learning, and I'm, nowhere near finished, still learning, I think racism actually crosses over. There's a lot of different intersections between it. So
it is, isn't it? It is quite intersectional, and it is quite on the spectrum. The more we think about it, the more we research into it, the more we hear people actually experiencing it, the more we're realizing that what we thought about racism is actually not completely the full picture of it. If you Google racism meaning in Google, you will probably find many definitions, and they will all start with idea. It is a belief. It is the belief that you hold about a race, about ethnicity, and you have preconceived idea about their qualities, about their abilities, including intellect and their characteristics. And you think of them of being superior or inferior.
Yes.
Isn't it? That's what you read. That is, that is it. So that's why straight away we're thinking, Black people or brown people, they get the first, they get the brunt of it. They're first on the line, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is the first thing that comes to your mind. And that is the first thing that is actually highlighted in the media now. But it appears that whiteness, it is not a monolithic term, is it? It is actually a spectrum, that not every white is white enough. That some white can be whiteier. And some
whitier than white, or not white enough, lesser white, and off-white.
Not quite enough white.
Not quite white enough.
There's complexity to this whiteness, isn't it?
The spectrum of white.
Yes, it is. And the reason why I feel so passionate about it is because I can never be white, as I found out the moment I reverted into Islam. It never was the case before. I was happy living, growing, establishing myself in Poland as a Christian. It was all hunky-dory. The moment I decided I will convert into what I believe in, and I will represent what I believe in. And scarf is quite a huge thing in this discussion of whiteness, isn't it? And I realize I can't stay in this environment. It's claustrophobic. I need to go. I need to move on. I need to move out. So I came to what I knew. I've been in England several times before, and to my surprise, I wasn't white enough. To my surprise, I was white other, and I'm still am, right? And I'm white less. And with my scarf on my head, I experienced the same effect, not only with non-Muslims, but also with Muslims. So that's why I feel so passionate about this webinar. This is where I'm coming from. And my experiences are backed up by confessions, I would say, of many others. So this is where I'm coming from. But where are you coming from, Georgina? Because you are white enough. You know, what are you doing here?
I'm white enough. I was white enough. I've been kicked out of white enough when I decided to put a scarf on. Yeah. And I'll tell you some funny stories of how, how my life is. Not white enough category. Oh dear. It's interesting because where I'm coming from is, I honestly, gosh, my white privilege just like pours out of my pores. And sometimes I think to myself, I don't experience racism. I really don't. And then I think, oh, and I've been reflecting on this all week. I'm thinking, oh, I do. Oh, I do. But I just don't see it. It's just not obvious. And I think it came as a shock to me when, I mean, you can call it, other people would call this Islamophobia, but I think this is a form of racism because I'm the projection of racism from others. So, and it's there, it is there, there's no doubt about it. I was reading something today on Facebook, stupidly looked in the comments, there it is, racism from white people about Muslims. They call it Islamophobia, but it is, they see Muslims as non-white. White and Islam doesn't go together. It's a mismatch. No.
Islam is racist. It's a racist. It's a race-based, ethnicity-based.
That's right,
isn't it? That's how we are seen, Muslims.
It is, and I think in Britain it's seen as Pakistani origin, possibly Arab.
Eventually,
France, in America, Arab, in France, Africa, Germany, Turkey. So it's about race, it's about ethnicity, and then you can speak to some Indian Sikhs, and they can be called Muslims by people, presuming they're Muslims because they're from India, and so there's all this going on. But for me, I think I saw it as Islamophobia, and I couldn't quite understand it. But actually, what it is inherently, if I think about it, it's might not be to me as a person, but it's who I represent now. I've become Muslim, and now I represent a lot of projection from internalized racism of other people, of black, of brown, and that's projecting onto me because I'm a representative now. I've left this community of whiteness, and I've now become other. I've become, a minority within a minority. And I found that quite shocking for a long time. I think when I first experienced it myself, and I experienced this with clients, I experienced this with all the convert groups that I've worked with and work with in the community and in the research I do. When I first experienced it personally, I had to double take. It's almost like, you're talking to me.
Okay, so what was it? What was it that you? So what was it you had? Go on, that keep us in suspense.
I can't remember the first one, but I remember it was a time of that the soldier Lee Rigby was killed. I was walking through my town. This man shouts across the road to me, "Oh, you killed a effing soldier!" And I'm there pushing my buggy, with the, you know, with the child in, and I'm thinking, and I thought, talking to me. And I thought, yeah, he's talking to me. And people are just looking and staring. No one comes to your defense. No one's ever.
No one ever is going to come your defense. Never. No.
Another time which I thought was more shocking, so there's been quite a few, more shocking for me, was in a very, very busy shopping centre